Julia Alexander with Be Informed, Joliet Community Television Station. As you know, it's election season, and I am interviewing a series of candidates that's running for election. And I happen to be here with our mayor, Mr. Bob Odekirk. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Good. Good morning, Julia.
Okay, God bless you. Thank you for doing the interview with me on today.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to dig right in. You were on a panel that 3 organizations gave maybe a week or so ago. And there were some questions that popped up that the citizens had written out. And one of the questions were the truck. So let's reiterate the truck, the traffic, and all the things that's going on with the intermodal in that area, that district.
Yeah, thanks. I guess in a nutshell, I'll try to keep it short. The intermodal, Elwood brought the Burlington Northern Intermodal, the rail yard, in 2003. They built it in Elwood. Joliet followed up in 2007 with the Union Pacific rail yard. Together, this is in Center Point. Together, this is the largest inland port on the North American continent. Last year, Union Pacific processed 650,000 containers. They came in by rail, unloaded, and trucks came in and out of their port to bring the containers out. Both the Union Pacific and Burlington Northern are doubling their operations. Union Pacific is estimating they're going to do 1.2 million containers this year. Burlington Northern is doing the same thing. So what it means in a nutshell is there are millions of containers that are coming into Joliet or Elwood, being offloaded, and then trucks are taking them out of the yard to whatever warehouse, wherever they're going, and then eventually another truck will bring an empty container back into the yard to be shipped back to California in the Far East. Okay, well, some of the concerns is how is that affecting us? How is that affecting our neighborhoods, the traffic, the roads? How is that affecting us? Well, it's everyone knows. Yes. It's a problem. It's been a problem. You know, Joliet did it in the end in 2007, but Elwood started this trend. And there's millions of trucks coming and going from the Elwood Intermodal right on Joliet roads, along with the trucks from the Joliet Intermodal. What we've done, a couple things. The Humboldt Road Bridge, which is going to be open in just a month or so, is an idea to pull much of the truck traffic off of Chicago Street, pull it to the west side, far west, and they can go directly from I-80 in and out of the intermodal. They can get right to the ports inside the intermodal. So that's I-80 on to 55? Well, I-80 in Humboldt, a little bit east of 55. It's the construction's going on right now. The state of Illinois is paying for the new interchange and they expand Humboldt Road to 4 lanes going south. From Route 6 into the intermodal, it's privately funded. It's $200 million investment. The bridge, the truck bridge, it's going to be a toll bridge. But again, it's the first real attempt to try to control the traffic that's going on inside the intermodal. There's other things that we've done, but the Humboldt Road Bridge, I think is a big step forward, and I think you're going to see a reduction in trucks on the local roads once that finally opens up. Okay, and there were also a little talk about the Ileana. I know that was, I remember interviewing Larry Walsh Sr. a while back, and he was talking about that in that Peatone area. So would that also be another factor in helping reduce some of the traffic as well? It would be. I think the people who planned this out 30 years ago, I think that probably was part of their plan. That's above the city level. The Ileana was going to connect I-55 with I-65 in Indiana, and it was going to go to the south, like through Wilmington, through that area. And I think that also corresponded with the Peatone Airport that was supposed to be built. Absolutely. So those plans, I don't know if they fell through, I don't know, but that's at the state level, it's not the city level. But I do think if that ever happened, it would draw much of the truck traffic to the south and outside the city of Joliet. Okay, so that would diminish even a little bit more traffic within our city perimeters, am I not correct? Yeah, I think it'd be a significant drop in traffic. Absolutely. Okay, great. Okay, so there was other questions that was on that panel, and let's go to this food desert and go, and then we're going to go to housing, we're going to go reiterate all those things and then maybe a little more. Let's go to our food desert on our southeast side of Joliet, and what's your plans? Well, consumers went out of business several years ago. I know the last couple of years they were operating, they were losing $1 million a year. So obviously they weren't going to stay in business. The consumers on Jackson Street has been bought by El Guero. They are in the process, it's moving slow, but they are remodeling the whole parking lot, getting that back up. And they got a nice incentive package from the city. We've offered the same package to other a number of other grocery store outlets, and we just haven't had anyone who wants to go into the business
Okay.
at that location.
Well, because you did mention that Councilman Morris had been reaching out.
He's been very active about it. Yeah, we've approached a number of different vendors and try to get them there. It becomes a little bit, whatever you give to consumers, you're gonna have to give to every other grocery store.
Okay.
So that becomes a little tricky. There was some pushback about El Guero buying the consumers.
Okay.
There were other East Side grocery stores that were aggravated, like, hey, we've been investors in Joliet for a long time. So there's always a balancing act. I know the people in that neighborhood want a grocery store back. Hopefully we'll get one day, but, and you know, I love saying this. If someone thinks it's a good investment, they should get a group together, go in the bank, get a loan. I can promise you, the city will give them the same incentive package we've given El Guero.
Well,
So,
I want to know, can you give me the incentive package and the loan? No, I'm just joking. But listen, some of the citizens out there, I've been asking questions to the citizens, and so they've been giving me feedback. So what I'm giving to you is from the voters out there, and they want to know about the water. Their bill has gone up. There seems to be some concern in that.
Yeah, well, there is, and the bill, we know water prices are going up.
Yes.
But we're in Joliet, we're sitting on an aquifer that we've been drawing out water off since 1907.
Absolutely.
And just to make it clear, this isn't a Joliet problem. This
Okay.
aquifer goes up into Wisconsin.
Okay.
The whole region is drawn water off it. That aquifer is going dry, but it's running out. By 2030, it's estimated we would not be able to meet our current demands for water, which is unacceptable. That would be a tragedy for any community. The city knew about this since probably the 1960s. They knew a change was going to have to happen at one point. Money was put aside back in the 90s with the riverboat money that was never spent on water. It was spent on other things. The city currently owns property on the Kankakee River down in Wilmington. The city owns parcels of land. Very few people know about that. But for whatever reason, this was kicked down the road. So under my guidance as mayor, we're not going to kick it down the road anymore. We can't. We're in a situation. I think the thinking was going back to the 1960s that eventually Joliet would take water from the Kankakee River. We now know through the EPA that that's not an option, that the Kankakee River would not be able to sustain the city of Joliet. So we put the commission together. They did a 2-year study. The council vetted on it, and we're in the process of acquiring water from the city of Chicago. So what we have to do is rebuild our entire water system, which we're doing. We are replacing every water main built before 1970 throughout the city. We're replacing all the lead pipes. We're switching off of the wells, and we're gonna have to build a pipeline from Chicago to Joliet. It's gonna cost money. The good news is that when this is paid for, we're gonna own our own water system.
Okay.
We have a 100-year contract with the city of Chicago fixing the rates. So down the road, probably past our time, Miss Julia.
All right.
The people of Joliet are gonna be very well off.
Okay.
And the other thing that's, I think, really important to stress, we took a leadership role. We didn't simply do what was good for Joliet. We were leaders in the region. We have 6 other communities that have bought into this and are paying into it. And it's critical for people to understand, the more people we can sell on this, the cheaper it's gonna be for everybody. We were big enough, we didn't need Romeoville's help. We could have done it on our own, but I really applaud the council. I think we took the right approach to group as many as we can. So right now we have Shorewood, Shanahan, Rockdale, Manuka, Crest Hill, Romeoville, Lamont. There's other communities, or Illinois American Water is coming to the table. So that's the idea. Obviously, to do this, it's going to cost money. We are getting federal grants, and we're going to continue to work on that. But the more people we can get to buy in, the cheaper it's going to be for everybody.
And so, in the long run, will it still go up? Because I think that's their concern. Are you going to try to get a cap on it?
If we can, I mean, we're going to fix the rates, but we have to pay for the system.
Okay.
But the reality is, whatever option we chose, water rates were going to go up. If we decided to draw water off the Des Plaines River, which I don't think would have been popular at all.
Yeah.
but water rates were going to go up. If we bought from a third-party vendor like Bolingbrook or New Lenox, look at their water rates.
Okay.
So whatever we did, water rates were going to go up simply because we had to make a wholesale change with the water that we have.
All right, but you will work to try to keep it as low as
As
you
low
can.
as, we definitely are doing that.
Okay. All right. So speaking of that, let's go moving to the downtown. There was something mentioned about the fountain downtown, and then with us having the water issue, and then this is supposed to be a big water fountain downtown in the new construction of our city center.
Yeah,
So,
that hasn't been decided, but you just understand the scope of it, because there has been a lot of bad information out there, even
Yeah.
about warehouses.
yeah, yeah.
The city of Joliet right now draws 18 million gallons of water a day from that aquifer. So a fountain or, you know, a building another subdivision, it's not gonna have any impact. I mean, 18 million gallons day after day after day after day. So there's plenty of water. We got the Lake Michigan allocation. There's plenty of water, and it will be available moving forward. But that's the issue, is that the aquifer can't meet the current demand. Scientists are not sure. It's such a deep well aquifer. They don't know if 50 years from now if it's going to replenish itself or not. They don't believe rainwater trickles down that low. So, but yeah, we're using the science. But yeah, I hear concerns about that. The scope of it, I think, maybe escapes some people, just how much water.
Absolutely.
Again, it's just our community. I named all the other communities involved in this. Aurora draws water off this aquifer. They began making the switch 35 years ago.
Okay.
They get half their water from the aquifer, half from the Fox River. So they certainly plan better than we have in Joliet.
Okay.
But we're going to solve the problem.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're headed toward that way. Okay, so let's just stay downtown. We talked about housing on that point. We talked about housing. There was something mentioned about St. Francis and Joliet Junior College wanted to put housing down there for the students.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think it's a great idea. I know there's been talks with the Housing Authority. They are going to move out of the building on Ottawa Street.
Yes.
200 Ottawa. And they want to purchase the country club and put housing there, senior housing, workforce housing. That has been stalled. The owners of the country club, I can't prove it, but I believe that they were promised warehouses. From the meetings I had with them, that they were stunned when we said, no, we don't want to put warehouses on this property. They had it all plotted out.
Wow.
So I don't know who gave them that idea.
Yeah.
Maybe it was the person who sold them the property.
Yeah,
But they believe that, and I think they now believe that if they wait this out, that eventually maybe with elections there'll be new councilman or new
Yeah.
mayor, they might get their warehouses on
Yeah.
the country club.
Yeah.
So they haven't been very honest about what they're doing.
Okay.
But Michael Simelton has been honest, and he's
Yeah.
trying to do the right thing. It'd be a great project for the Housing Authority, and it'd be a great transition for the country club. As far as downtown, I think we all agree that bringing more people in to live there is going to help the businesses. And I know I made the joke at the forum, but if you get young girls,
Yes.
then you'll have young guys.
Absolutely, and
there's-
vice versa.
Right,
Yeah.
it works that way.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah, it did.
and that, yeah, I think the city is moving that way. Downtown's made improvements.
Okay.
There's more that needs to be done. We know that. COVID was a setback for a while.
Right, right.
But yes, there is talk, and both of the colleges have already a footprint downtown.
Okay, give a little layout, Ms. Samira, of what the future city center looks like to you.
Well, we started with reconnecting Chicago Street.
Mhm.
That came from, I want to compliment Larry Walsh, the former county executive,
Yeah.
and Dick Palmer.
Yeah.
We were able to get a lot of work done with the courthouse, with trading, the land swaps, to give them a piece of property that they needed, or for us like to reopen Chicago Street. That was the first leg. Chicago Street is going to go back to looking how it used to look in
Yeah.
a long time ago.
I know, I live there.
It was 4 lanes wide, there was parking on the street.
Yeah,
The urban landscape that came in the 70s, we're gonna do away with. It's gonna be straightened out and widened. There will be a new plaza in the big open space across the street from the Rialto.
Absolutely.
And we're in the process. Again, this was going strong before COVID. There have been a committee, there have been meetings. When COVID came, it derailed all that.
Yes, it did.
And rightly so. We were faced, it was the middle of the pandemic, there was a complete shutdown. And we knew that Joliet government couldn't fail. People still need 911, they need ambulances, police, they need clean water. So all those types of things, we pulled back on everything to make sure we could maintain the services, and we did. So yes, it stalled the matter, but we are moving forward now. The city's doing very well financially. We're not waiting anymore, that plaza's gonna get built. Exactly what goes there, I don't know. They had a forum, a public forum last week. I've seen the different plans, but I'll be frank, I don't think I have a great eye for things like that.
Okay,
Because there's some very talented people out
Yes,
there.
absolutely.
So I kind of defer to them.
Okay,
on this.
absolutely. Okay, and so we also talked about you talked about District 86 and 204,
Yes.
and you commend them on getting through the COVID, getting the kids back on track, because that was a bit of a struggle during the 2020 and maybe 2021, just
Yeah.
trying to get back together.
And even,
Expound on that.
well, it was. I mean, obviously with the remote learning, that was controversial.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
And then, yeah, last year, boy, I forget the number, I said it at the forum, I think there were 12 suicides
Yes.
in Joliet
Yes.
area schools, not just Joliet schools, but in the area.
Yeah.
I mean, that's tragic.
And this was during COVID, was it?
It was last year, last school year.
Really?
So it was
Wow.
post-COVID. It certainly has affected people differently.
Wow.
But, and we knew with some of the violence, one of the principals was attacked, and there's some crazy things going on.
Yeah.
But they really seem to have stabilized the
Okay.
schools. And I, obviously the teachers and the administration, but, and the elected officials on the school board, I think together they've done a great job.
Okay,
So-
all right.
But yeah,
Okay.
it was, I think COVID was hard on a lot of people. I think it was hardest probably on the kids.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Mayor, what would you like to, should you maintain the seat of mayor, when you maintain the seat of mayor, what would you like to move forward on, something that you're working on and is dear to your heart that you would want to complete?
Honestly, there's about 5 or 6 real big issues I want to see through. I want to see the construction on I-80. Governor Pritzker has allotted the money.
Okay.
We all know this should have been done 20 or 30 years ago, but thank you, IDOT, thank you, state, they're here now.
Yes,
So we're gonna get it
yes,
done.
okay.
The Hobart Road Bridge is gonna be done in a month or two, but that's a big step forward. And it really, again, it's the first real attempt to try to control what's going on in the southeast region.
Absolutely.
So I'm proud of that, and that whole deal isn't costing Joliet taxpayers a penny. I think it's a great deal. The Cullinan project at I-80 and I-55, again, they're going strong, but COVID certainly struck on that project. It was hard to open new retail developments or get commitments when everything was shut down.
Yes.
And not knowing when we were coming out of the pandemic. But the announcement a few months ago about Hollywood Casino locating there is really exciting. That's gonna be a great, great project.
That's off of 55, is it?
Right off I-80 and
I-80
I-55.
I-80 and 55.
If you
okay.
go in the area now, you'll see a new interchange being built from I-55 directly onto that property. We passed the bonding on that, so it's a great project. I know, I have an idea what's coming there. I think the people of Joliet will be very excited.
Now, let me ask you this, and maybe I should know this, but the Hollywood Casino, is it considered in the city limits right now?
It is, but they were moving. When the state passed a law that allowed for those licenses to be transferable,
Yes. Mhm.
they were locked on the river because initially the riverboats had to go out.
I had to go
But
on the
that's
water.
not the key.
Mhm.
So they were leaving that area, and they were being courted hard by other communities. It's millions of dollars of tax revenue.
Okay.
So I worked hard with Marty Shanahan, it goes back that far, to get the commitment to have them stay in Joliet. We were thrilled that they did.
Yeah.
They're gonna be an anchor for that project. There's a lot more coming behind them.
Okay.
But that would have been a significant drop of revenue if they lost.
Oh,
if they
yeah.
left. So keeping them here was a real victory for
Yeah,
the city.
yeah.
And-
Well, you worked hard to keep a couple of places here, the courthouse,
Yes.
the riverboat. So now I guess I'm wondering for myself, now this is a question for me, what's gonna happen to that land out there? It's city land, I mean, some fantastic things could happen out there.
Yeah, the city doesn't own it, and neither did they.
Okay, okay.
They were leasing the land. So
Okay.
I believe, again, with the intermodal, you've seen, it's not just the trucking, the warehouses, but the
yeah.
barges along the river.
Yes, yes, and
Lion
trains,
Electric, the
yeah.
manufacturing plant. That's the draw, the size of that port and how big it is drawing all those companies down into that region.
Okay, all right, okay. All right, so Mr. Mayor, we talked a little bit about everything on that panel. And what do you see the future of policing look like? Because we did talk about policing. There were some that mentioned that, maybe police may need more training.
Yeah, I mean, sure. There's I think right now, aside from the academy, I think policemen get 40 hours a year in training, every year for updates. So, yeah, I know a lot of things are thrown around. I think, well, look, we heard, we get the announcement about a month ago that Joliet, and this is new for us.
Yes.
Was ranked one of the top 15 safest cities in the country for cities with 100,000 people or more. So that's a great achievement. And I think what we've seen here, crime hasn't really gone down in Joliet, but it hasn't spiked like it has all over the country. In other communities, they've seen huge increases in crime. They haven't done it here. So I think Chief Evans and our current police department are doing a great job. I think a lot of changes are happening. The body cameras are coming in. When I was a police officer, there was nothing like that. When I was a policeman, there weren't cameras in the jail. So it was
Really?
There were not. No, there was one, but it didn't record.
You're about to tell your age now.
No. So yeah, and society's evolving. Police work is going to continue to evolve. I think we have to be careful not to let the pendulum swing too far.
Okay.
We've seen a big drop off in the number of recruits, people applying for the job. That is going to be an issue moving forward. I talked about Aurora a couple times. Aurora is offering, I think, a $10,000 or $20,000 stipend to any current police officer that will leave their department to come work there.
Oh, really?
So recruiting and getting capable men and women to take that job is going to be an issue. And I think we all need to be cognizant of that we need a police department.
Well, I know a few years ago, we were kind of down on police, at least about 40 or so.
Yes.
And I know that there had been training and hiring. Are we still down on the count, or?
Yeah, we've hired over 70 the last 2 years.
Okay.
But yeah, in 2020, there were a number of veteran officers who left, and the academies were closed because of COVID.
Yes.
So we couldn't replace them.
Okay.
So we're still down officers, but the council has really made an effort. And 70 new officers in the last couple of years is significant. So
Okay. And then another thing I want my viewing audience to know, when you guys do decide and someone, they pass their test and they're hired, there's a training cycle that they have to go through, and they just don't come right on the job. So how long is that training cycle?
the police academy
Yeah.
was 400 hours, 10 weeks.
Okay.
Then you come out, when you're deployed with the Joliet Police Department, you do 3 months of where you have a field training officer. And so a veteran officer will ride with you. You have 3 different months. So you spend a month and you're evaluated every day. Those evaluations are kicked up through the chain and evaluated by the department, whether you're passing or not, how you handle different situations. You go to 3 different training officers, and there's a period called a shadow period where you'll ride with an officer who will be out of uniform. So you're basically on your own as a veteran officer there, again, to observe and monitor and make sure that you're capable of doing the job. And then again, there's training every year, there's evaluation. So the process.
So over, I guess I'm looking at the process, it's a half a year before they even touch the ground, right?
Right, on your own.
Oh,
Right.
geez.
And yeah, we've encouraged people, especially going back in 2020 when there was a lot of people were coming forward complaining about police.
Yeah.
We have a Citizens Police Academy here in Joliet. We've been doing it since I was an officer. And we encourage anyone who's interested to get involved. I think it's eye-opening for people, just so many misconceptions about police work or what we do or don't train our officers to do. And the fact, I think that we make it available for anyone who wants to learn about how we do it in Joliet. Come and join the academy. I think definitely encourage people.
Awesome, awesome. One more thing before I let you look into the camera and tell everybody to vote for you on April 4th. We were talking, it was mentioned about this quarry that came up. You did say that you didn't really know the effects of it because you've not had the opportunity to. So expound on that.
Well,
What do you think of
there's a number of quarries in Joliet. Apparently some of them blast, others don't.
Yes.
This quarry came forward on the southeast side, and they want to start blasting. Staff reviewed the proposal and recommended to the council. A lot of people in the neighborhood were not happy about this. They came to a meeting. The quarry themselves pulled the item back, so it's no longer on the agenda.
Okay, good.
So what would have happened is if there would have been a public hearing, they would have been there, they could have answered questions from the public, answer questions from the city council. The council members will educate themselves and make a decision and ultimately vote yes or no. For some reason, there was some, not a lot, but there's some criticism that we should have had the public hearing. I didn't understand where this
You
was coming
should
from.
have or you should?
Should not have.
Oh.
I was told that we should have had our minds made up before the public hearing by some people.
Yeah.
And that's completely backwards. It should be done in public. There shouldn't be backroom deals and what the council's hearing, the public should hear. So that would have been the process. It didn't happen because they pulled it back. But you know, for those that were critical, that didn't want the public hearing, I'm not sure I understand that thing. But, yeah, certainly, it all should be done, and I said I don't have an opinion. I know really very little about quarries and blasting.
Well, I tell you what, and I'll just be totally honest with you. I grew up in a neighborhood right there off of Brendan Road.
Right.
And they were blasting out there, and you know that they have the big quarries out there,
Right.
and I'm like right next to it. And my house shook, my pictures fell off the wall, all of that
Right.
stuff. That is not a good scene, a happy scene.
No,
And then you worry about the foundation.
sure, especially
Yeah.
the older buildings.
Yeah.
Yeah, all this stuff was gonna get vetted. I don't wanna be critical, but,
Yeah.
the council did nothing wrong. I mean, and we still never had that process.
Yeah.
Presumably, one day they're gonna come back, and when they do, there'll be the public process,
Yeah.
and those types of concerns are gonna be addressed. And I have no idea if it would pass. I don't know if I would support it or not. I just, but we never even got to that point.
And there again, I'm just gonna just touch on this just a little bit more. There again, you know, with those quarries out there, now you got all, you know, you got empty big holes. So what happens after that? Do they get filled in, you know, after a while? Or?
They haven't. It's private property.
Yeah, it
no.
is. It's mostly private property.
Yeah,
that
the city
they do?
does.
Okay.
Course, yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's part of the foundation, so to
Yes,
speak,
yes.
where Joliet was built on.
Yeah, I know, right?
But,
Limestone.
Yeah, when you're talking, certainly in the East End neighborhoods, these are older buildings.
Yeah.
I know the federal government does monitor the quarries. It's not the city that does it, but,
Okay.
as you can attest, that maybe that wasn't always done well.
No,
So,
no, I can attest to
Yeah.
that. It wasn't. Okay, so Ms. Mayor, are there anything that we talked about or that you would like to get out that I did not bring up?
one thing, when you talk about seeing things through,
Yes.
there's two projects on the east side that I'm very excited about.
Okay.
The first is the prison, and that story's been told over and over again, but it's still in process. And I think it's been a great Joliet story, how the
Okay.
community all came together
Okay.
to support that project. And the second was US Steel. I just made an announcement about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
That property has been vacant since the 1980s, and there have been a lot of buyers at the table. For whatever reason, the deals didn't always come through. Usually it was US Steel that was pulling out. About 4 or 5 months ago, myself and Mr. Caparelli went to Pittsburgh.
Okay.
We met with executives of US Steel, and, you know, as much leverage as we had, we implored them that, let's get this deal done. This is a good deal. Argonne Labs is involved, the Governor Pritzker's office is involved. So I'm really excited to see where this is gonna go. It's a green energy project, and to see that, you know, really blight in Joliet, blight on the east side coming back to life. I'm really,
Okay, for
really
those
excited.
that may not have seen that panel or all of that, tell them, go a little bit more in detail about this deal.
It's a proposed, like an eco campus with electric battery recycling. There's other things they're looking to do, and quite frankly, it gets scientific. I'm a lawyer, I'm not scientific. I don't want to misspeak, but it's exciting. And
Yeah.
again, the private buyers have bought Argonne and new technology, and then
Awesome.
again, we're at the tip of the spear.
Okay. Green jobs.
Green jobs,
energy.
new
Yeah.
jobs, cleaning up that site,
Yeah.
remediating, you know, that's heavily polluted,
Okay.
that whole area. And I saw recently a proposal about building like a dome or something for kids to play.
Yeah.
No, it's a toxic dump right now. You don't want your kids playing out there.
Yeah,
And so, but yes, this company will have to remediate the property. So it's been blight for Joliet for 35 years, and it's great to see it moving forward. And again, I think the idea that we're at the tip of the spear, these are new jobs that are going to be sustainable jobs, and they're coming to Joliet.
And speaking of jobs, I have to go back over this because that did come up in the on the panel, jobs and then the wages in jobs.
Right.
So
Yeah, when I ran, it's interesting, when I ran for
Yeah.
mayor 8 years ago, there's probably 10 different debates with me and Mayor Girani. And not once was there ever a question or concern about traffic or truck traffic. What did come up a lot was the level of jobs, the unskilled labor, and what the warehousing or logistic companies were paying. And I talked about this at the forum. When Amazon came in 2015, they really raised the bar in the whole area. Now, granted, it's 7 years ago, but starting pay was $15 an hour. That was higher than the other warehouses were paying. Amazon offered 401k matching contributions. They offered insurance. They offered, they helped pay for further education. People want to educate themselves. So it forced all the other companies, if they wanted to attract employees, they were gonna have to at least get close to what Amazon was doing. And you can see the advertising. I think Joey Cold Storage is starting at $19 an hour. I was at a ribbon cutting over the summer. It wasn't Transco, it was another company where their starting wage is $21.50 an hour. And these are starting wages.
Wow.
So, you know, these are entry-level jobs. It's people maybe without much of a work history or no work history. And certainly the bar is raised. The $8 an hour and people being laid off after 85 days,
Yes.
no benefits.
Yes.
I think to a large part, we just don't hear those complaints anymore. If it's happening, it's under the radar. I haven't heard about that. And those companies just can't compete with all the other companies that are paying much higher wages. So, and the other thing I want to stress, and I talked about this because I don't think it's said enough, with all those jobs, we're talking about entry-level jobs,
Yes.
since I've been mayor, there have been 4 companies that have moved or opened their corporate headquarters in Joliet. And I don't think that's ever happened in the city's history. So there is a diversity of jobs that are coming in. We saw with Lion Electric with the manufacturing jobs paying in the high $80,000, $90,000 in that range. So yeah, I think we've done a lot to address that.
So when you say that, and for my viewing audience, to have them open a corporate headquarters here, what does that mean to the city?
Well, it's executive level jobs.
Yes.
And it's certainly like, I'm trying to think of the name, Cadence came from Alsip. They were located in Alsip. They took their corporate headquarters from Alsip, moved it to Joliet. M2M in Motion had their corporate headquarters in Schaumburg. They moved to Joliet. There was a barge company had their corporate headquarters in Lamont. They moved it to downtown Joliet. So yeah, it's certainly more people in our community, but it's higher level jobs too. Which we all said we need to diversify the jobs. I think we've done a good job of doing that.
Okay, so I'm going to attack you on this one a little bit. When they say that they moved their corporate headquarters here, they also moved their people from somewhere else. Our community does our community have the opportunity to get some of those jobs?
They should.
Okay.
They should. I know there was a candidate who he was a local guy, and I won't use his name, but he was going to run for council, who works at IKEA, and he works at a high level at IKEA. He ended up not running for office, I think because it was IKEA. My brother-in-law, he grew up on the east side of Joliet, Joliet Central grad, was working for one of the companies. It's actually one of the ones on Route 52. And he was making, when he left, he was making over $80,000 a year.
Wow.
So he started at again, entry level, but you're working way up like any other job.
But the citizens here have the opportunity to
They
get some of those, because that's our concern, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
and when I met with Amazon a couple of years ago, this was stunning, this surprised people. Now, Amazon employs 2,500 to 3,000 people. Only 40% of their employees were Will County residents. So there's a couple issues there. Number one, that's 60% of the people are coming from outside of our community, not just Joliet, which accounts for a lot of the traffic.
Yes.
I think it's also important, and that's why I praise Michael Simon to the Housing Authority. We should be capturing those people. They should be staying in Joliet. We should, instead of commuting, we should have them living. I don't think there's enough workforce housing, and we're addressing that. But yes, certainly the jobs are here, and local people should be encouraged to look in that area. I know Joliet Junior College has made a nice transition. They are teaching careers in logistics. Again, not warehouse working, entry-level jobs, but careers. They have a program. They partnered up with some of the warehouses and logistics. So it's a transition, and we're not done, but I think from where we were 8 years ago, I think we're in a lot better position now. With what's happening.
And you can kind of see the future of where we're going to as well. So good job. That goes off to you. At this point, please look into the camera and tell everyone to vote for you on April 4th.
Well, I'll make it brief. You know, when I joined the council in 2011, I was elected with Councilman Hugg and Councilman Morris. And we came into a city that was looking at a $27 million annual deficit. We have completely turned that around. The city is doing better financially now than ever before. We have over $80 million in the reserve fund. We've done this without raising taxes except for the gas tax, which I oppose, I still oppose. The city should give that money back to its residents. So elect council people that agree with me.
I agree with you.
Yeah, but no, we've done it largely through economic development. There's been billions of dollars of private funds being invested in Joliet the last 8 years. We're seeing billions of dollars in public funds being invested in Joliet. Our city never operated at that level before. We've done it since I took over with the help of the city council. I certainly want to continue that trend moving forward. The other thing I'll simply say, I talked about this a little bit, coming through the pandemic, I've been honored to be the mayor for the last 8 years. I think, Julia, you'll see me out a lot. I don't take it lightly. I take this role seriously.
Absolutely.
And make myself as available as I can be. But the pandemic, when things first shut down in March, like most of our employees, we were not able to shelter in place.
Yes.
We were not able to quarantine. And I was doing almost daily press conferences with Chicago media and local media, trying to pass out as much information as we could. And the one thing I said over and over again is that city government, not just Joliet, but city government can't be allowed to fail.
That's right.
If you had an emergency and you dial 911, you needed police or fire or paramedics to show up and help. When you turn your faucet on, you need clean, safe drinking water. If there's an issue, a water main break, or if it snows or whatever, the streets need to be maintained and need to be cleared. So we couldn't be allowed to fail. And looking back, we were looking at situations early on in the pandemic. What happens if half the police department gets sick?
Oh, wow.
Or if the whole afternoon shift at the water department gets sick? What are we going to do? And those are the contingencies and the plans that we were making. I was talking, a lot of elected officials were gathered there. There were
Those
conference
are the
calls
essentials that the city
that we
must
provide,
supply.
right.
Yeah.
So I was meeting regularly with Mayor Cherico from Naperville and Mayor Irwin from Aurora. We're in the region, we're all similar size, and we were sharing information, what we were being told. And it was a critical time to be the mayor. Obviously, things worked out well for the city, and we moved past that. But I was really proud of the city staff, of our workers. I talk about the first responders a lot. I know I'm not talking about myself.
Yes.
There was not one instance where a Joliet police officer or firefighter did not go to a call, handle an emergency. And they knew every time they left their station, they were exposing themselves to COVID.
Absolutely.
And that they could take that home to their family, their children, their parents. And there was not one instance of a Joliet employee not doing their job. And this is going back to the very beginning where no one knew the extent of this, how bad it was.
Yeah.
So it's just really a proud period. It was a tough period, a dark period, but I was proud to be at the leadership position, take our city through that period.
Yes.
So I'm very proud of my record for the last 8 years,
Yes.
of all we've accomplished. I'm very thrilled to see where the trajectory we're on, and where we can go in the next 8 years. And for that, I would ask people to consider my record, and I would certainly ask for your vote April 4th, if not early voting before that.
Absolutely. You can vote today.
Yeah.
Just remember, if you don't vote, you really don't have a voice. If you're concerned and you care about your community, about your city, then please go out and vote. No matter who you vote for, it's your choice. So listen to each one of the candidates' platforms, find out which one fits you in your life, and you make that choice on who to vote for. But go and vote. April 4th, am I not correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Mayor, and early voting is right now. There's also same day voting, so you can register the same day and vote down at Will County. So there's no reason for you not to vote. Mr. Mayor, once again, my hat goes off to you. I thank you for allowing me to come in and talk with you and letting the audience know what you've done and what you would like to do. So God bless you on your trail.
Thank you. You too.
To maintain the seat. Here with one of the mayor candidates for the city of Joliet, Mayor, Mr. Terry Darcy. We're going to talk with Terry. He's going to tell us a little bit about what he hopes to bring to the city and to the citizens of the city. Good morning, Terry. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for doing the interview with me on today, Mr. Darcy, and let's just get right into it. Tell us a little bit about what you plan to do.
Well, there's a lot of things that I think I could bring to the table as the new mayor of Joliet.
Okay.
I've been involved in business in town for over 30 years, and I've been very involved in the community, so I have a real feel for the community.
Yes.
You know, I've done many things that put me on the ground. I did Meals on Wheels, Route 9, which is Collins Street, all the way to the east side of Briggs Street. So I understand a lot of the community. Everybody should know that we have a real big legacy part of our city. And I see things that aren't getting done over there. One of the platforms I'm on is that we need equal representation and equal share all of our tax dollars across the city so that everybody's treated equal, and particularly some of our legacy neighborhoods, that the sidewalks aren't so good, things like that. Those are some of the comments I'm getting right now.
Well, you were on a panel, you were on a marriage panel just this past weekend that was given by a few organizations. And there are a couple of questions that came up. I would like for you to expound on, there is one about the police and how you would deal with the police. And you made a comment stating that the police, should get more training. So can you expound on that a little bit?
Yes. Number one, we need to get our police force back to 100%.
Okay.
And I know that we've hired several over the last several years, but by attrition, we've lost some, and we had to replace those folks. But we're coming into new times. We've got to understand that there's cultural diversity we have in our community. We need to know how to relate to everybody. And there's also in our country and in our community a large mental health issue going on. So sometimes you pull up on a situation and you need to be that mental health counselor as much as a police officer. A guy burning a mini American flags in the middle of Larkin Avenue, he's not mad at our country. He's just not doing right that day. How do they help that? So I think that we need to really train harder on that first responder's first response when they come into something like, how do they diffuse that? I know there's a group in town that forms something called battle buddies, and these are gentlemen that have been in battle and are policemen. And when they run into a situation with a PTSD veteran, and I don't mean to sound like that way, they can relate to them because they've been in their shoes in the past. They're empathetic with the situation. So the first thing that a police officer has to do is communicate and understand what the situation is and work to help de-escalate problems.
Okay. I was in a group of people at one time, Ms. Dorsey, and I heard someone mention that because that conversation had come up before about the mental health of the police, the stress and all that they go through, because they are in a war zone actually at certain times. So do you think that it would be wise to have someone like a mental health specialist go out on the calls with the police? Would that be something that you would think would be wise?
That's always been on my mind.
Okay.
And I think of it this way, and maybe it's not the right correlation, but we've got canines that go out to help in certain situations, to track people, things like that. But if a call comes in that we've got something that looks like a mental health issue, we should have someone integrate into that call with us so that they can help diffuse the situation. They can help train the officer during that time to how to de-escalate a situation and help that person.
I've never heard of that before. So, and we know we have a food desert, right, on certain sides of town. And so we're looking for grocery stores, and you put forth the initiative to try to get at least that grocery store. Tell us a little bit about that.
So what I've read about the Yellow Banana is they are part of the corporation called Save More. They've got 38 stores like this right now around the country. And I know they're looking for more places to go, and because they want to give back to communities, they're the kind of place that we would get in front of. We'd have the story to tell. Now, when I talked about that there was a space at the possible HUD development that would go on at the old Joliet Country Club property, some folks said, well, maybe that's not the right spot. And I'm glad that comment was made. We need to understand where is the right spot. What's going to be the best place for that? And if we got in front of a group like the Yellow Banana or Aldi or somebody and had the right story and the right place for them to go, we could get that done, I believe.
Okay.
If you ask, you receive.
Ask, and you shall receive. We talked about another thing, Mr. DRC. We talked about housing and what that looks like on the southeast side of town. Expound on that a little bit.
One of the big things that I think we really need to do is take a look at our long-term comprehensive plan for the city, which has not been around for a long time. So we've only got so much blank canvas left, as I refer to. We've only got so much land that's not built on right now. We have to make sure that we put the right things in the right places. One of the things that I'll comment on too is that, we're a community of 150,000 people. 43,000 of those 150 are under the age of 19. 30,000 are over the age of 55. And a lot of folks have raised their families. Now they want to go to a safe place with like-minded people, a Del Webb type community, and I hate to use that term, but we should have a Del Webb community. The world evolves every year, and we have to evolve with it. So with a comprehensive plan that has flexibility, we can start to decide. So if that project goes on over at the Joliet Country Club, we can start to develop some more housing around there, some senior housing, you know, with walking trails and duplexes or triplexes. You got to be 55 or over. And then what happens is those folks sell their houses, and someone young comes in and buys it and rehabs it to today's society.
Yes.
And my son did 3 houses in Joliet. He'd redo one, then he'd find another, redo it. Didn't really make much money doing it.
He's flipping.
But he did. He made the houses really, really nice, and he got on them for breaking even. He had fun doing it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that opportunity in our community as the 43,000 younger people migrate into staying here. We've got a place for them to go, and we need a place for the 55 and older.
Absolutely. Speaking of housing, let's move to the city center area. You were talking about having the colleges put dorms down there.
Yes.
Expound on that a little bit.
So I was on the board of directors of the University of St. Francis, and for many years they have wanted to get student housing in downtown. They haven't developed any more student housing on their campus because they really like, you know, they've got 22,000 square feet of classroom down there. Joliet Junior College has a culinary program down there. And what I see is student housing in the middle of our town. And those young people bring life, you know. And I like a Crabageld, I think maybe we can turn that into the student center. That's a place for them to go besides where they live in the dorms. And we start to utilize the downtown with young people. And of course, their parents are going to visit them. The restaurants, they'll have someone engaged with it. It would be the start of getting people downtown other than the 5,000 people that go down there to work in the city center and then go home every night.
Okay.
We need to get people to live there.
Okay.
And
So
young people are the future.
and they are, and I see that. Okay. So you have the dorms down there. You have the restaurants down there. What other attractions would you want down there to keep the young people engaged? What other attractions would we have down there?
Well, we've got a lot of things rolling around right now. You know, the Rialto obviously is a great theater space. We need to get more entertainment. We need to get a lifestyle down there. You know, I'm going to tell you first. I had a conversation, several conversations with a friend of mine, Bo Jackson. And Bo Jackson has a Bo Dome up on 355, and that's a training dome. And what Bo Jackson's doing right now is he's doing tournament domes. He's got one in Columbus, Ohio, Texas. He just built one in Bensonville, and Bensonville already has enough hotels and stuff around the airport. What he does is takes a 30 or 40 acre site. They put a big dome on there like you see coming out of Rosemont, coming out of O'Hare. And then they have hotels and restaurants around there, and there's a lot of investment in youth sports by parents. They want their kids to be the next Bo Jackson. So what happens is they pull in there on a Thursday, they have their volleyball tournaments or their baseball tournaments or whatever sport they're in. But they park their car, they have hotels and restaurants, and then on Sunday they pack up and go home. So that brings a lot of people from not only our city but our region and other states, and it creates more income, more life in the city. So if they're going to be in town, you got the Rock and Roll Museum, you got the Historical Museum. Now if you got kids downtown and other kids come in and they have restaurants, and you start to do that. So he and I have been in dialogue on that, and he said, if you become mayor, I think we can do this. Even if I don't become mayor, we can do this.
Absolutely. A fitness center down there.
Yeah.
You guys have to stay healthy.
A
Your school
completely
kids have-
sports center that, you know,
Yes.
when it's not being used for that, our city can enjoy it. And I'm going to throw this out there. You know, we're talking about having a battery rehab center on the old U.S. Steel property. What better thing to do than to put that right in the heart of our town? You know, we've got an old factory that's been gone for years. What if that was at the old U.S. Steel property? So now you've got a component of recreation, a big component of recreation. You've got student housing, you've got a university, you've got Joliet Junior College. Now your synergy is coming back. And you know, we're so culturally diverse in our community, everybody can use it. This is where we all get together. And I really see that as a dream I'd have. So I'd love to share that dream. And I called Bo today and I said, can I have permission to use your name? Because I need to get my dreams out there. You know, if I'm not the right guy for Joliet, then I get it. But I've been to Walt Disney training twice with General Motors. I went down there as a member of the National Dealer Council. They said, you go down there and tell us if you think it'll help your dealers. And I said, great. So 14 of us went to Disney, stayed there and went through a 10-day institute. We came back, we said, yeah, we think it'll help our dealer
Wow.
become better.
Mhm.
And then I bought a Chevrolet store, and they said, you gotta go again. I said, great, you can learn more.
Wow.
But the last thing they left us with was, who's the Walt Disney of your business? Who is your Imagineer?
Mhm.
Who's gonna help you think out what your business is gonna look like 1, 2, 5, 10, 20 years down the road? And that prompted me to think, you know what, we really need to do that. So I really think things out long term, and that's the view I'd like to see of the city. And
Okay.
you know, I don't think we're gonna build this next week. I know there's a lot of red tape in doing stuff like this. If you don't have a dream, where are you going?
We also talked about the homeless. So tell me a little bit about your plans to help rectify some of the homelessness here in the city.
Well, we know that a lot of the homelessness is related to mental health issues.
Okay.
And Joliet is the center of Will County. We're the county seat.
Mhm.
And I think this homelessness issue has got to become a regional issue. I think we need to get together with our region, with our county. We need to talk about what do we do city by city in this county, as well as in our own city. You know, we're 21% of Will County is Joliet.
Mhm.
And we have to have a big heart for the homeless. We need to help them, and we need to come up with plans that would make sense. And I talk about collaboration, so we need to collaborate with the county. We need to collaborate with our state representatives. We need to ask our federal people to help us do things and become a beacon of light for all the help we can. And maybe it's not just Joliet that does it, but how do we help the other cities understand how do we help the homeless in their communities?
Absolutely. Now, you stated it's majority mental health issue. What about, are you planning on building facilities? Because we used to have those facilities years ago, if I can remember correctly.
We did.
Well, and we no longer have those facilities, am I correct?
We did have that, and I think big government some years ago took away the funding.
Okay.
So again, we have to go back to, and I think Governor Pritzker right now has an initiative to help in the mental health field that we have.
Mhm.
I'm going to throw this accolade out there. Our township received $1.9 million in grant money to bring in 18 social workers to work with our youth. I sit on the Silver Cross board, and 30% of the people that are coming into the emergency room at Silver Cross are either behavioral and mental disorder problems. And the really sad part of that is that 75% of those folks are under 20 years old. We need to get to the youth. We need to help them find a straight line and help them understand. And I have a big heart for the homeless. A friend of mine and I have a 501c3 that we help with, and the Guardian Group.
Okay.
And we rehabbed many over the years, homeless people. We've given them hope back. We've given them a job. We've helped them find a place to go
Okay.
and then work and live. And
That's
so I have a big heart for that.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to touch down on one more question before I allow you to look into that camera and ask everyone out there to vote for you. The other question we talked, the other topic that was mentioned was jobs. You made a comment about, sure, we have the jobs coming in, but they're not sustainable enough for a person to raise their family on with the income that they have. So expound on that a little bit more.
Well, right now we have all the warehousing and all the trucking going on in our community, but a lot of these warehouses use temp help. So how are you going to raise a family? How are you going to grow yourself if you're in a temporary basis? The benefits aren't there. You don't know if you have a job all the time. This is what I'm hearing. I've been in conversation with Warehouse Workers for Justice. You know, they're not unionized organizations, but somebody's got to help them work with and for those folks that devote their time for their paycheck, but they're just a machine, basically, some of these bigger companies. So I'm not so sure that those jobs are the best jobs for our community. A lot of these big corporations that come in here and plant their big factories, or not factories, but warehouses, their headquarters are everywhere but here. There's a few. Cadence Trucking, and I've talked to Rocket Kaler, a great guy. How do we get them more committed to our community? I see what Cesar Cardenas did at the old steel mill down there, Steel Workers Union Hall. And it's an incubator. And it's an incubator, and it's how do we start to do that where we get small entrepreneurs a chance to start to incubate together. So he's got single offices that are rented by other people, and they interact with each other and they help each other. It's just the synergies there.
Yeah.
So we need to really take a look at giving our young people an opportunity to understand entrepreneurship and how to get started, help them get there, a hand up to get them moving.
Okay, give me your idea. Give me your idea of what. Do you have a plan? Do you see how to do that? Do you have anything in your mind as to how to go about doing that?
I don't have an answer for that right now.
Okay.
I think to become mayor,
Yeah.
there are 890 people that work in our community for our city, and there's a great administrative staff. But again, I'm going to go back to a long-term strategic plan.
Okay.
What have we designated for incubators? What have we could partner up with some companies that would want to do, bring startup companies here and give them a chance. And I call that private-public partnerships,
Okay.
So the
Yes.
city can be more assertive. I know we've got an economic development team, and that's going to bring businesses here, but we also have to look at the quality of life and the quality of people that are coming in here and balance all that together.
Okay, I promised I was going to end this one, but I definitely have one more. Since you mentioned economic development, it brought me back to the trucking and the development that's coming in, but also the things that's coming in with the development of the trucking. Expound on that just a little bit for me, please.
Well, I know we proudly say that we're the largest inland port in North America.
Yes.
But with that comes trucks. And with that, I don't know how much revenue we get out of all these trucks that take up our streets and take up our times when we want to drive somewhere on our highways. I call it the truck wagon train. You just want
Yes,
to hook
you
your
do.
car up and shut the motor off, but you can't. When I stand downtown Joliet and I'm trying to talk to someone and trucks are flying by and dust is flying, they don't like using the tollways. I've talked to some of the trucking companies and they're like,
Really?
they don't like it because they don't want to pay tolls. They'd rather take a little more time and jig-jag from Lockport to Joliet to get there. So I know we've got the bridge over there that's going to bring them all out to Route 80 in one place, but I call that the tip of the funnel because in the meantime, they're all coming into that.
Okay.
So-
And for the viewing audience, that's the Humboldt
Humboldt Road
Bridge
Bridge,
you're
yes,
talking
yes,
about, right?
right.
Okay, all right. And so it tunnels them in.
It funnels them in, but they're coming in from all kinds of ways to get in there, and then once they hit Route 80, then they come back out. So
Okay.
I was on the tollway board from 2012 to 2016, and we know that our country's going to grow 1% a year till 2050. So we're really going to expand. And Joliet and Will County in particular is the only place that the Chicagoland region has to grow. So everybody's starting to come down here and telling us what to do with the property we have. It's our turn to say, wait a minute, we need to make sure that we can accommodate the 150,000 good people that live here. I'm going to say that the Illinois-Ileana Tollway is probably a good idea. That would take south of all this trucking development, I-55 to I-57. Now you could move that over from Route 80 to Ileana Tollway.
Okay.
The truckers don't like tollways, but we still have to make that happen. So, part of the long-term planning is the Ileana Tollway. It's not going to happen overnight, but if we don't start that plan now, it's not going to happen 20 years from now either. The state owns a lot of property in Peatone for another big major airport. Of course, Chicago doesn't like that idea.
I know.
But can you imagine that being a commercial airport where they get off the train, they truck it to there, through the Ileana, and they don't bother the neighborhoods?
Not at all.
This is 20-year planning.
Yeah.
But we need to have that 20-year planning.
Okay, but it can be done. That's what you're saying.
It has to be done.
It has to be done.
That's my opinion.
Absolutely.
If somebody doesn't want to hear it, I'm sorry.
No, that's your opinion, and you have
Yeah.
every right to that opinion. Mr. Darcy, it has been a pleasure letting my viewing audience hear what your dreams and your goals for the city of Joliet. At this point, please look into that camera. Tell them, first of all, is there anything that we did not cover that you would like to cover?
No, I think we talked about a lot of good subjects, and I think I broke a lot of ground on things that I was going to come out with tonight. We have an event tonight.
Yeah,
And
a town hall tonight, right?
A town hall tonight,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before you go, I always have to do this. You have to tell us about you. Who are you? Are you married? Do you have children? What's going on with you? I know that you're a mother's son. I know that part for
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
All right, so tell us a little bit about you, Mr. Darcy, for
So
those that may not know.
I grew up with 8 kids in my family. My dad's 4th generation in Joliet. When he married my mother in 1949, she lived in Plainfield. There was 1,200 people there, so they bought a little bitty, my grandpa bought a little house next to them.
Okay.
And so I was raised in Plainfield, went to Plainfield High School, and right out of high school I wasn't going to go to college, so I became an iron worker out of Local 444. I moved to Joliet. I lived here for 10 years,
Okay.
and I was an iron worker for 5 years. During a winter layoff, I went in to buy a car. The guy talked me into being a car salesman. Somebody told me I could never make it, and here I am years later doing it. But it's been such a great opportunity. I think sometimes there are those little divine interventions in life, those moments that change your life. And I don't think if that guy would have told me I'd never make it, I'd probably be a retired iron worker, and I doubt we'd be sitting here talking. But I've been blessed, and I've been fortunate, and the opportunity that this career has given me. I've been on the National Dealer Council twice with General Motors, sitting with the heads of General Motors, talking about the business and how can we all collaborate together. Being on the tollway board for 4 years. We did a $12 billion reconstruction and improvements and additions to the tollway system, about 300 miles. So I sat on the finance committee. 3 of us would vet every contract and make sure that when we brought it to the full board, we've figured out what's the best one to use, whether high or low. We just had to find the best deal for the tollway. So we were doing, the 3 of us in the finance committee and the engineering committee, we would, some months we'd go through $100 million worth of contracts. So I'm used to dealing in numbers like that. I understand budgets because I've been running my own business for 31 years. Some of the neat things we're doing here in Joliet, we're building now the largest Hyundai store in North America, 68,000 square feet. The average Hyundai store right now is about 24,000 feet. And they think 24, 32,000 is a big one. Yeah. I had people from California here last week. They were awestruck. They just said, oh my gosh. So here, Joliet, the largest Hyundai store in North America.
Yes.
How fun is that?
Wow.
I'm married to my wife, Sue. We've been married 16 years. I had a previous marriage. We were married for 18 years. We have 4 wonderful boys from that. I live here in Joliet again. I've been back here for a couple years. And I love the city. And I've been part of this city as a business person for 31 years. And I said, I don't think it really matters where I put my head down at night. But
well, not just you, but your grandfather.
Oh, yeah,
There
sure.
is a Tycee Street right off on Hunter that is
my
his
great-grandfather.
name. Now, we just got you a honorary name, but your grandfather has that street all together. I'm like, that's awesome. So your family has been embedded in the city of Joliet for many, many years.
Yeah, my great-great-grandfather came to Illinois from Ireland in 1850.
Yes, okay.
And he landed on some property on the Des Plaines River that was all forest. So he took all the trees down, sold the lumber, and then began to farm.
Wow.
So he was a farmer, and my great-grandfather did not want to be a farmer. So when he was 14 or 15, his dad said, you got to be a farmer. He said, I want to be. So he went on his own way. And he put himself through college. He was #1 in his class in Michigan with a degree.
Okay.
Came back, he lived in Joliet. He was a newspaper reporter and stuff during school. In the 1890s, he was a city alderman. They weren't councilmen, then they were aldermen.
Yes.
In 1895, he was the city attorney. So he's on the cornerstone of the library with Daniel Burnham, who
really?
designed the library, and he was famous for helping reconstruct Chicago after the Great Fire. So genetically, I think I'm
a history of
to,
legacies.
Right. So
Absolutely.
I just want to give the city back what it's given to me. I have really a great team of people running my businesses. I could retire and not do anything, but my wife doesn't want me not to do anything. She said, find something to
Soon
do.
you're smart, girl. No. Go ahead.
So anyway, I've just got wonderful children and bonus kids, and I love the city, and I just want to give back one more time. My mom is going to be 97. She'll be mad if I say it out loud. And she's 30 years older than me, but she still drives. She still plays bridge. She takes her friends to dinner, and she's got great energy. So I figure I got another 30 years of good energy left. So I might as well hand 4 of them at least.
At her, right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, and she still lets you know that you are the child. And
Absolutely. I told her I'm not 12 anymore. She said, well, don't I do. I want to thank everyone that is part of my campaign team And I want to thank everyone that has been so gracious. I've got over 1,000 yard signs out. I've got a couple hundred 4x4 signs out. But more importantly, when I knock on doors, people are praying for me to get in there. And I got to tell you, a vote and a prayer, you can't beat that. So thank you so much for everything, to everyone that is supporting me in this endeavor. Thank you.
And once again, ladies and gentlemen, April is the election, April 4th. Please go out and vote. If you don't vote, then don't complain. You must get out there. You must vote for the candidate of your choice. We have 3 candidates running for mayor. You should listen to each and every one of their platforms so that you can make a wise decision when you go to the voting booth. Once again, Terry, thank you so much for doing this interview, and God bless you on your trail to becoming our next mayor for the city of Joliet. At this point, please look into that camera and tell my viewing audience, to come out and vote for you.
I would ask everyone to come out and vote. That's so important. We need to communicate to this city that we believe in what we have, or we might believe in a change. I just ask you to come out and vote. Of course, I'm going to ask you to vote for me. I would like to start getting my dreams rolling out, or I'd like to hear what your dreams are. I want to work for 150,000 people in the future, and I'd love to do it. Thank you.